WWE Raw. Seth Rollins returns and destroys Bron Breakker. January 5, 2026. Seth Rollins just did something on Raw that's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about WWE's plans for 2026, and if you're not absolutely furious about what happened to Bron Breakker, you're not paying attention. This wasn't just a return. This wasn't just an attack. This was a calculated assassination of one of WWE's hottest rising stars, and the way it went down has the entire wrestling world asking one question: what the hell is WWE thinking? Drop a comment right now. Did Seth go too far, or is this exactly what Bron needed to prove himself? Because what happened on Raw isn't just about one moment. It's about WWE's entire direction heading into WrestleMania season, and somebody's career is about to get derailed. Let me paint the picture for you. Bron Breakker has been unstoppable for months. He's been running through the roster like a freight train, the Intercontinental Championship around his waist, victories over established names. The crowd is finally starting to believe that this second-generation superstar is the future of WWE. Everything is clicking. The push is real. And then Seth Rollins, who's been out of action recovering from injury, decides to make his return by absolutely demolishing Bron in a beatdown that felt personal, vicious, and honestly shocking even by WWE standards. Here's what's got people seeing red. Seth didn't just attack Bron. He humiliated him. This wasn't a quick post-match assault where Seth hits his finish and stands tall. No, this was prolonged, brutal, and designed to make Bron Breakker look completely helpless. Stomps on the announce table. Chair shots. Bron writhing in pain while Seth stood over him laughing like a maniac. And the worst part? The crowd ate it up because it's Seth Rollins, and Seth is one of the most overperformers in the company. So now we've got a situation where WWE's returning megastar just buried their future megastar, and depending on where you stand, this is either brilliant storytelling or the same old WWE playbook of feeding young talent to established names. Let me break down both sides because this debate is tearing the wrestling community apart right now. The case for Seth's attack goes like this: Bron Breakker needs adversity. He's been booked too strong for too long without facing a real challenge from someone at the absolute top of the card. Seth Rollins is a multi-time world champion, a WrestleMania main eventer, one of the most skilled performers in WWE history. Having Seth come back and target Bron immediately positions Bron as important. Seth doesn't waste time on people who don't matter. By attacking Bron, Seth is essentially saying, "You're the threat I need to eliminate." That elevates Bron even in defeat. Furthermore, this gives Bron a real storyline with stakes. Up until now, he's just been winning matches and looking dominant, but there's been no emotional hook. Now there is. Now Bron has to come back from this humiliation. He has to prove that he belongs in the ring with someone like Seth Rollins. He has to show fire, intensity, and the kind of babyface resilience that creates stars. If WWE books the follow-up correctly, this could be the feud that transforms Bron from a guy with potential into a bona fide main event player. The people defending this booking will also point out that Seth needed to make an impact. You can't have Seth Rollins return and just cut a promo. The man has been gone for months. He needs to remind everyone why he's the architect, the visionary, the messiah, whatever he's calling himself these days. A brutal assault on the Intercontinental Champion does exactly that. It re-establishes Seth as a dangerous, unpredictable force and sets up a major program heading into WrestleMania. Now let's talk about why people are absolutely furious, because the counterargument is just as strong. Bron Breakker didn't need this. He was already over. He was already being positioned as a future world champion. He had momentum, credibility, and the crowd behind him. And in one segment, WWE potentially damaged all of that by having him get destroyed by a returning star who doesn't need the rub. This is the same pattern WWE has repeated for years, and it's why so many promising wrestlers never reach their full potential. A young star gets hot. WWE gets nervous about pulling the trigger. A veteran returns or needs something to do. The young star gets sacrificed to make the veteran look good. The veteran moves on. The young star tries to recover but never quite gets back to where they were. We've seen this movie before, and it never ends well for the young star. Seth Rollins is already established. His legacy is secure. He doesn't need to destroy Bron Breakker to prove he's still elite. Everyone knows Seth is elite. But Bron? Bron is in the most critical phase of his career. This is when WWE needs to protect him, build him up, and make fans believe he's on that top level. Having him get brutalized sends the opposite message. It tells fans that Bron isn't ready, that he can't hang with the main eventers, that he's still a step below. And let's be real about what that beatdown looked like. Bron barely got any offense in. There was no back and forth. There was no moment where Bron showed he could compete with Seth. It was one-sided destruction, and that's the problem. If they had brawled and Bron got his shots in before ultimately getting overwhelmed, that's one thing. But making Bron look helpless? That's how you kill a push. Here's what's really making people angry: the timing. We're heading into Royal Rumble season. WrestleMania is on the horizon. This is when WWE should be elevating their next generation of stars, not feeding them to the previous generation. Bron Breakker should be in a position where he's entering the Royal Rumble as a favorite, where people are talking about him as a potential WrestleMania main eventer in the next year or two. Instead, he's now in a revenge feud where he has to fight from underneath to prove himself against Seth Rollins. Don't get me wrong, Seth Rollins vs Bron Breakker is a great match on paper. These two could absolutely tear the house down at a premium live event. But the setup matters. If Bron comes into that match as damaged goods, as the guy who got destroyed and is trying to prove himself, he's already starting from a deficit. Even if he wins the eventual match, the perception has shifted. He's no longer the unstoppable force. He's the guy who got beat down and had to overcome adversity. Let's talk about what this means for the Intercontinental Championship, because that's another layer to this situation. Bron has been a fighting champion, defending against all comers, making the title feel important again. But now the focus shifts from Bron as champion to Bron trying to get revenge on Seth. The title becomes secondary to the personal feud, and we all know what happens when WWE stops prioritizing a championship, it gets devalued. Is Seth going after the Intercontinental title? That's the logical next step, but it also feels like a step backwards for Seth. He's a former world champion. He's main event WrestleManias. Why would he be feuding over the IC title? Unless WWE is planning to use this as a stepping stone to something bigger, maybe Seth wins the IC title and then Bron chases him while also getting into the world title picture. It feels like both guys are operating below their potential. Here's another thing that's frustrating fans: where does this leave everyone else? The Intercontinental division has been heating up with multiple credible contenders, but now all of that gets pushed aside because Seth Rollins decided to target Bron. Those other storylines, those other wrestlers trying to build themselves up, they all become irrelevant because WWE is focusing on the returning star and his handpicked opponent. This is the WWE system in a nutshell. Individual performers don't matter as much as the names WWE decides to push. Storylines don't build organically. Everything is dictated by who's returning, who's available, who management wants to feature that month. And the wrestlers who are grinding every week, putting in the work, building momentum, they get shoved aside the second someone bigger comes back. But let's consider the possibility that WWE actually has a plan here. What if this is intentional? What if they want Bron to be the underdog babyface who overcomes the odds? What if the plan is for Bron to eventually beat Seth clean in the middle of the ring and cement himself as a top star? That would work, theoretically. The problem is that WWE's track record with long-term storytelling is questionable at best. How many times have we seen WWE start a promising angle and then completely botch the payoff? How many times have we seen a young star get a big opportunity only to have the finish changed at the last minute because WWE got cold feet? The concern isn't that WWE can't book a good Bron Breakker comeback story. The concern is that they won't. They'll get distracted by something else, or they'll decide Seth needs to win to set up a different feud, or they'll just forget what they were building toward. Let's also address the elephant in the room: Seth Rollins' character. The man has been a heel, a face, a tweener, and everything in between. He's incredible at all of it. But what exactly is his motivation here? Why did he attack Bron specifically? Is he jealous of Bron's push? Is he trying to prove he's still the best? Is this about the Intercontinental Championship? Without a clear motivation, this just feels like WWE needed Seth to do something, and attacking Bron created a moment. Great wrestling storylines have clear motivations. Austin hated his boss. Rock wanted to be the best. Punk fought against authority. What's Seth's story here? I came back and decided to beat up the IC champion isn't compelling without more context. WWE needs to give us a reason to invest in this beyond just two talented wrestlers are fighting. Here's what needs to happen next if WWE wants this to work. First, give Bron a strong response. Have him cut a promo where he doesn't just sell the beating but promises retribution. Show fire, show intensity, show that this attack lit a fuse under him. Don't make him a whining victim. Make him a dangerous man who just got pushed too far. Second, let them have a competitive match. Not a squash, not a one-sided beatdown, but an actual war where both guys get their stuff in and the outcome is uncertain. Bron doesn't have to win the first match. Sometimes losing the battle to win the war makes sense, but he has to look like he belongs in that ring with Seth. Third, protect the Intercontinental Championship. Don't let it become an afterthought in this feud. The title should matter. It should be what this is all about, not just a prop. If Seth wins it, it should feel like a major accomplishment. If Bron retains, it should feel like a defining moment in his career. Fourth, and this is crucial, stick with the story. Don't pivot to something else halfway through. Don't get distracted by a returning legend or a surprise debut. Commit to this feud, give it time to breathe, and see it through to a satisfying conclusion. The problem is that all of those things require WWE to be patient, to be consistent, and to trust their younger talent. And historically, that's not their strong suit. They panic. They change plans. They sacrifice long-term storytelling for short-term pops. And that's why people are angry about this Seth Rollins return. Not because the moment itself was bad, it was executed perfectly, but because we've seen this pattern before and we know how it usually ends. Seth Rollins is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Nobody's disputing that. But he doesn't need this win. He doesn't need to destroy Bron Breakker to prove he's still relevant. Bron, on the other hand, needs protection right now. He needs WWE to commit to him as a future main event star. And having him get demolished by a returning veteran, no matter how talented that veteran is, doesn't serve that goal unless the follow-up is perfect. So here's my challenge to everyone watching. Tell me in the comments if you think WWE is going to follow through with this story or if they're going to abandon it halfway through. Tell me if you think Bron comes out of this feud stronger or weaker. Tell me if Seth Rollins needed to return as a destroyer or if there was a better way to bring him back. This is the defining feud for Bron Breakker's career so far. If WWE gets it right, he becomes a made man. If they get it wrong, he becomes another cautionary tale about a promising star who got fed to an established name and never recovered. The stakes couldn't be higher. Like this video if you think Bron will overcome this and prove himself. Share it if you're worried WWE is going to mess this up. Subscribe if you want me to track every development in this feud and hold WWE accountable for how they book it. And comment with your prediction for how this all ends, because I genuinely want to know if you have faith in WWE to do the right thing here. Seth Rollins is back. Bron Breakker is down. And the next few weeks are going to determine whether WWE learned from their past mistakes or if they're doomed to repeat them. Let's watch this unfold together and see if they can actually stick the landing for once.